Hey everyone, this is Josh for another exciting episode of the podcast. I am very happy to be joined by LeShawnda, who is the founder of ReadyForSpanish.com. LeShawnda, first of all, thank you very much for coming on the show. Can you start by just giving a quick introduction and a little bit more about who you are and what your business does?
I am super excited to be here. I'm LeShawnda, founder of US-based business ReadyForSpanish.com. We're an online platform that teaches Spanish to children and their families. So we've been around we started in 2009. We've grown to a international business because we're online. So I'm super excited to be here.
Awesome. And can you tell everyone a little bit about how you got into the business? Like, take us back to 2009. How did all this start?
Well, I started out as a Spanish teacher. So I was a Spanish teacher, and then they cut all of the extras, so music and language from middle school. So I found myself laid off and I started my own program. I was like, what better way? I can teach things in a fun way. I kind of created my own way to do it. So I started my own program, which was in person for a few years. And I grew and I also just didn't want to be limited by time space, right? Because I can only serve so many kids. So I started to put the program online and it's pivoted to what we have today, readyforspanish.com.
Awesome. It's funny how sometimes something like being laid off can feel probably so negative at the time, right? But can end up being the best thing that's ever happened. And I'm sure COVID had a funny way of helping a business like yours. Can you talk a little bit about how much the business has grown since you started it, and do you still see a lot of room for growth in an industry like this? Like maybe there's some aspiring entrepreneurs out there who've been thinking about language schools or tutoring or anything like that?
I mean, absolutely. COVID was actually great for us because I'd been online since 2016 and I was, really coming against some obstacles. Families didn't really understand how online education worked. So I was a little ahead of the curve in that way. But when COVID hit, I didn't have to hurry and get ready. Like I was already ready. So I was able to get a head start on those families that were still looking for educational opportunities for their children. And, it's really made it an amazing opportunity to grow worldwide. We have families in Africa, and I'm looking to just continue to grow the brand. There's a lot of opportunities, and parents are actually looking to take more control of their children's education. So they're looking for programs like this. So if you're just like, oh, I'm a teacher, no, you can have a worldwide impact if, you want to.
Absolutely. And I've certainly noticed over the last couple of years an explosion in what they call EdTech in general, right? Like educational technology companies, be it in, languages or elsewhere. So I totally agree. Now, for those people who are out there and really like the idea of a business like this, what are 5 key steps someone could take to go from zero to getting a business like yours at least started or off the ground?
So if I were to break it down into steps, I would say step one is to just, start with your idea and your niche, but also get support. I would definitely connect with a mentor. You could book a strategy session with me or someone who's built a similar business. Two, just from the business end, I would get clear on a service model. So, that's kind of where I ran into some issues in the beginning because I was just a passionate teacher, right? I wasn't really thinking numbers or what is my long-term strategy? What does my exit strategy look like? So just really get clear on your business model. Like it is a business, even though you do have a mission. Step three, I would say build connections, network with educators, community leaders, business owners, parents to spread the word about your business. Four, be consistent, be open to learning. Building trust, especially in the educational space, takes a long time. A lot of people You see a lot of success stories and it looks like, oh, they hit $1 million overnight, but that overnight was, 10 years, 20 years, sometimes 30 years. You don't really see all of it. So just stay consistent and then seek feedback and pivot often, right? Because like initially I was but still trust yourself, right? But initially I was in person, right? Because that's all I knew was an in-person business. I'd never seen, people online, especially in the educational space before. So when I first went online, everybody thought I was crazy just because my local program was so successful. And they're like, oh, you want to close this? And I'm like, yeah, I can serve more people. So that was something that I had to be courageous with, for myself to go online. And I also didn't really see the benefits of that for a while. But don't be scared to pivot. Trust your instincts and just stay focused. So those would be my steps.
Yeah, that's great practical advice. It's obviously been probably quite the journey, right? From 2009 to now. What would you say has been the biggest struggle that you've faced as an entrepreneur in that time?
So some of the biggest struggles were bootstrapping. Like you felt like businesses cost money. And I actually started with $0. So I had to be very resourceful. In 2016, when I went online, we didn't have all the tools that we have now. So I had to basically learn how to build my website. Like I built my own website. I had to lean into automations. Like I learned all the automations that weren't nearly as automated as now. So it's a lot easier for somebody that's starting now. But then honestly, just self-care as an entrepreneur. Like when I first started, I was working so hard. I really started to neglect like my physical and mental health. And it's not, worth it. So that's something I would say as a solopreneur is to just take care of yourself.
Hmm. Well, maybe it's such a good point, especially in solopreneurship. Maybe I'll ask you to expand a little bit and just talk about how do you find that right balance, right? Because, like you said, on the one hand, you don't want to drive yourself crazy or run out of energy and kind of ruin other elements of your life. But on the other hand, as you said earlier, it's not easy, right? This might be a 5, 10, 20-year journey, the 10-year overnight success, as they say. Do you have any tips on how solopreneurs can try to find that right balance for them?
I think definitely find a community, get mental health support, therapy if that's accessible for you. Take breaks. Like it started to be better for me when I chunked my work and did like work blocks, so 2 hours, and then I would definitely have to take a break. I was more effective that way anyway. And just make sure that you rest. Like the work honestly never gets done. So you can work yourself forever. It never gets done. But if you're not here because you've overwhelmed yourself, then the business is, over anyway. So you just
Yeah.
really have to take care of yourself.
I definitely agree. And the last thing I'll add is find what works for you, right? Because you
Yeah.
might have some things that work great. Some people can work 16 hours a day and be fine. Some
Mhm.
people, it's like 6 to 8 hours of hard work and they're kind of out of it, right? So find what works for you, work everything around how you can be the most productive. And then, as you said, make sure to take breaks, make sure to uncharge, make sure to get the help that you need. One of my last questions, LeShawnda, is ignoring all the other amazing advice that you've given us so far, what would you say would be one great tip or key piece of advice that you'd love other solopreneurs who are out there listening right now to know?
So if I was going back to like tell myself if I could navigate some of the challenges, I would say definitely stay focused on your impact, but also grow financially by staying lean. A lot of times, people will say you need this huge team or you just got to make savvy financial decisions. And definitely today in 24, I say embrace automations and technology. That's really going to give you a lot of your time freedom back. Just leveraging those tech tools, streamlining operations that allow you to serve more efficiently. So definitely keep your mission at the center, use your resources wisely, and lean into systems that can help you scale.
That's great. That's even more than one piece of advice that are all really helpful. Keep saying this. Almost my last question. Do you have like maybe two or three of tools that you recommend for automation, AI, operations, that kind of stuff?
It just depends on which part. So my business is for the most part completely automated. So all of my lessons are pre-recorded. I've done those over the years. All of my like printables and lessons, they're all digital. So I'm not really going in live. I can pre-schedule all of my emails. I can pre-batch all of my content. So, I have an assistant who checks, my messages. So now, I'm 10 years in. I'm only working 1 to 2 hours a week unless I'm doing like a major launch. So there's so many behind the scene parts, but ChatGPT, like, I love it. It'll
Mhm.
definitely help you with your copy. Canva, I love Canva as a tool. But yeah, just automations, your email auto responders. So
Do you use that for growth as well? Like now that you have kind of the operations and fulfillment mostly automated, how do you approach sales and marketing?
so sales and marketing is big part of our marketing strategy is still email marketing. So just like getting people to join our lists, we use challenges. And then a lot of that stuff is already automated just because
Hmm.
we've been doing it for so long. So sometimes I'll have to go in and, update, just like make minor updates, but the bulk of it is already done. But that
Right.
takes, you have to do it and you have to, split test it and you have to optimize, but it does get easier. But
Right.
lean into those tools.
So
And
so
the
just to clarify, do you mean you're using like email autoresponder sequences? They've all been, as you said, like over time, you've built them, you've split test, but it's mostly kind of like driving people to landing pages, getting that email and kind of dripping them from there.
Yep,
Awesome.
it still works really well for me.
I love it. I mean, I'm huge on email lists for those of you who've been listening or watching for a while. Definitely make sure you're on our Substack, which I'll post in the description below. I've been bullish on email lists for pretty much my entire career, and I think while most people can sometimes get sidetracked by the new, the flashy, et cetera, email marketing's been very successful for decades and probably isn't going anywhere anytime soon. So, LeShawnda, this has been extremely helpful. I want to give you the opportunity as well to kind of plug a little bit more about you. If people do want to, whether it be they're interested in your business or maybe they're interested in learning more about you or connecting, where do you recommend that they go?
You can find me at readyforspanish.com to learn more about our programs. We're at Ready for Spanish on all social media. So if you want to connect with me, just send me a message there. And yeah, I look forward to meeting more of you.
Awesome. Thanks so much again for coming on the show. We will have links to those in the description, whether you're watching on YouTube or maybe you're listening to the podcast on your favorite podcast platform. LeShawnda, thank you again for coming on the show. Really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.